Welcome back to Nerd Lab. We've got an incredibly fun explainer for you today, so before we jump in, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss out on our deep dives. Okay, so today we are looking at something truly exceptional. We recently gained access to a highly classified internal laboratory protocol officially designated as ALL-PAKA-Lab 84B. Now, this document tackles something we are all intimately familiar with, yet we rarely know how to actually describe it scientifically. We're talking about maintaining your own mental integrity in the face of an absolute, unmitigated disaster. So let's dive right into this protocol and see exactly what it reveals.
Right off the bat, we have to ask a pretty wild question. How can we use strict mathematics to prevent a mental breakdown when our perfectly clear expectations violently clash with hard reality? You know the exact feeling we're talking about. That specific moment when something goes wrong and you can just feel your blood pressure rising. But what if I told you this feeling of intense frustration isn't just some elusive emotion? What if it's actually a strictly defined physics problem that can be precisely calculated? Well, let's look at how the protocol breaks this all down.
Section 1. The math of cognitive tension.
What is absolutely fascinating about this fundamental equation of cognitive tension is just how elegantly it's defined. The system puts it exactly like this. S equals the absolute value of E minus R plus U. Okay, let's decode that really quick. S is our subjective stress. Now, this stress grows precisely as the gap widens between E, our expectation, and R, which is the reality at any given time. And what multiplies this whole mess? That would be the variable U, systemic uncertainty. Basically, the bigger the difference between what you want and what you actually have, and the less you know about what's going to happen next, the more massive your stress becomes. It is pure math. But you know, life doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It happens in unpredictable environments, which is exactly why the protocol introduces a supplementary vector of uncertainty.
Section 2. Accumulated systemic noise.
So those everyday minor inconveniences we all deal with, they aren't taken lightly in this research at all. In fact, they're defined as serious environmental noise, designated as N. This noise is the sum of three very distinct deviations. A represents absence. That's when a critical element you need is simply missing. T is timing, the deficit created when things just don't go according to schedule. And O is outcome, which represents literally any deviation in the final result. Each one of these variables quietly pours gasoline on the fire of our subjective stress.
When we combine all the variables from both equations found in our source, we get this incredible table that the protocol formally refers to as the legendary matrix of variables. Look closely at those first letters, SERUNATO. Subjective stress, expectation, reality, uncertainty, noise, absence, timing, and outcome deviation. They brilliantly spell out the system code SERUNATO. I mean, it is an absolutely elegant arrangement. But hey, theory is beautiful, right? How does this actually play out in practice? Well, our source material provides a highly classified and frankly disastrous case study to show us this matrix in real time.
Section 3. Case Study, the SERUNATO incident.
The context of this operation goes like this. The operator initiated a completely routine potato boiling procedure. The water had been boiling wildly for 6 whole minutes, potatoes bouncing around in the pot. Following established protocols, the operator naturally reached into the cabinet for caraway seeds. Now, why caraway? Well, as the document heavily emphasizes, both folk wisdom and lab empiricism clearly state that caraway partially neutralizes solanine, which is a mildly toxic alkaloid in potatoes, and it aids digestion. Except, the operator opens the cabinet and finds only cinnamon and cloves, ingredients that, to quote the source directly, belong in potatoes in no known universe. At this exact moment, point A from our noise equation violently activates: absence. The spice cabinet is empty. The missing critical element was identified immediately, and trust me, it could not be ignored. That missing caraway acted literally like a failing cooling rod in a nuclear reactor. Without it, the issue wasn't just that the food would be bland. No, there was a real threat of impending stomach pain. The crisis had officially begun, triggering a massive clash between the operator's mindset and their environment.
And now we see the brutal collision from our very first equation. On one side, we have expectation, E, perfect, safe, and delicious potatoes. On the exact opposite side, reality, R, an empty spice jar, along with cinnamon and cloves, which the protocol notes would make the potatoes taste literally like a protest. And adding to all of this is the devastating uncertainty, U. Am I going to get sick? Will I not? Should I even risk it? There were no viable substitutes. Butter wouldn't fix it. It would literally only mask the sensory input. At this point, the operator's anger was rising way faster than the boiling water. The total stress, S, and the accumulated noise, N, began adding up rapidly until the whole system reached a critical breaking point.
Section 4. Phase transition, E to 0.
The absolute most crucial point of this entire research is this recalibration rule. Honestly, it reads almost like an unbreakable law of thermodynamics. It says that if the sum of subjective stress, S, and accumulated environmental noise, N, crosses a specific threshold, the system evaluates that there is literally no point in carrying the burden any longer. It automatically triggers a phase transition. The expectation variable, E, transitions directly to
0. Expectations drop to absolute 0. The system simply stops generating rescue scenarios and makes the only rational decision available. In that very moment, the potatoes cease to be an object worthy of salvation. You simply refuse to fix an unfixable reality, and by doing so, you mathematically and instantly eliminate a massive chunk of your stress. And as the authors of the protocol assure us, this transition is absolutely not a defeat. It's the exact opposite. It is a deliberate reduction of expectation overload.
Section 5. Saving mental integrity.
Look at exactly how the operator in the case study stabilized the situation once their E dropped to 0. They immediately stopped wasting energy. They evaluated their options and chose alternative 1, bread and butter. Why? Because as the document wittily wrote, bread requires no missing caraway seeds. Or they could go with alternative 2, pick up the phone and order a pizza, because the absolute fastest route to peace of mind goes straight through someone else's kitchen. And the potatoes? They were just left abandoned in the boiling water as a silent monument to vain preparation.
The very conclusion of the report speaks loud and clear. An administrative note confirms that the incident was formally logged under the code SERUNATO, file closed, operator stabilized, no further action required. It is a highly bureaucratic yet mathematically perfect proof that just writing off a doomed project is hands down the best possible way to save your own sanity.
Hidden right in the middle of all this rigid mathematics is a profound, almost philosophical realization. The quote reads, "When the noise is too high, the system transitions into a mode of minimum expectation and maximum peace." The SERUNATO model isn't just about cooking potatoes, right? It's an entirely universal methodology for literally any technical project or human endeavor designed to help us recognize the breaking point before it shatters us.
What we absolutely must take away from this explainer is the final motto of the ALL-PAKA Lab. Letting go of your expectations is not a failure. It is for sure the ultimate crisis coping mechanism. When you can just zero out your E at the critical moment, you instantly create the necessary space to find calm and alternative solutions. Less expectation, more peace.
And that brings us to the end of today's declassified ALL-PAKA Lab 84B Protocol Explainer. So I've got to ask, what other daily disasters do you think could be completely solved simply by zeroing out your expectations and applying the SERUNATO rule? Drop your own experiences down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this analytical breakdown on mental integrity, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Nerd Lab so we can see you for our next deep dive. Stay rational out there, and remember, when you're out of caraway, just order a pizza.